In a world that never seems to slow down, it's easy to feel like you're being pulled in every direction, by stress, by conflict, by the endless weight of expectation. But what if you could stand firm no matter what life throws at you? In this journey, we'll walk through 10 powerful Stoic principles drawn from the wisdom of Epictetus that will teach you how to protect your peace, sharpen your resilience, and rise above the chaos. Stay with me until the very end, because each principle builds on the last. And by the time we finish, you'll have a clear path to becoming stronger, calmer, and unshakable in the face of life's storms. And it all begins with the very first step, discovering a firm purpose that anchors everything you do. Principle 1. Hold a firm purpose. If you look closely at the turmoil of human life, you will see a common thread. Those who drift without aim are the ones most easily broken. Their days are shaped by chance, their emotions by the moods of others, and their dignity by the praise or contempt of the crowd. To lack a firm purpose is to live as if you were a feather in the wind, lifted one moment, trampled the next. This is why the Stoics placed such importance on the question of purpose. For without it, nothing else in the discipline of philosophy can take root. A firm purpose is not a dream you entertain idly, nor a shallow goal dictated by society. It is the inner compass that orders the whole of your being. Epictetus urged his students to consider what kind of person do you wish to become, not what fortune you wish to possess, not what honors you crave, but what essence you wish your soul to take on. This line of questioning pierces through the illusions of daily life, for most desires are fleeting, but the vision of who you are meant to be, this endures. To discover this purpose requires a certain honesty with oneself. You must peel away the masks you wear for others, the ambitions borrowed from the world, the cravings that come and go like tides. What remains after this stripping away is the beginning of truth. And truth is often simple: to live justly, to act with courage, to be temperate, to pursue wisdom. These are not glamorous pursuits. They do not glitter. But when anchored in them, you cease to be tossed around by every wave of circumstance. Once glimpsed, this purpose must not remain a mere thought. It must be cultivated until it becomes the marrow of your actions. To hold a firm purpose is not to declare it once, but to reaffirm it daily, especially in the face of difficulty. For difficulty is not an interruption of purpose, but its proving ground. The greater the difficulty, said Epictetus, the more glory in surmounting it. The obstacle is not there to break you, but to measure the weight of your resolve. Without obstacles, purpose remains a theory. With them, it becomes strength. Consider how a guiding purpose transforms your perception. What once appeared insurmountable begins to shrink. The mountain becomes a path. The storm becomes a test of endurance. When you know what you stand for, you are no longer at the mercy of circumstance. The world cannot decide for you. It can only present conditions under which your purpose will either shine or wither. And in that trial, you discover who you truly are. Yet purpose is fragile in its beginning. It can be drowned in distraction, buried under fear, or eroded by the slow corrosion of routine. That is why the Stoics emphasized discipline. To hold a firm purpose is not simply to state it, but to protect it. This means aligning your daily thoughts and choices with what you have declared most important. Each act of consistency is like driving a root deeper into the soil, so that when the winds come, you remain upright. The process is lifelong. To find your purpose once is not the end. It is the beginning of constant renewal. Life will tempt you to forget to trade it for comfort or applause. There will be times when you doubt yourself, times when you wonder whether the struggle is worth it. And it is precisely in those moments that you must return to reflection to remind yourself why you chose this path. Without such vigilance, even the strongest purpose can wither. With it, even a fragile beginning can grow into unshakable strength. Think of purpose as both anchor and light. As an anchor, it holds you firm when storms rage, preventing you from being swept into despair or distraction. As a light, it guides your direction, ensuring that even in darkness you know which way to walk. Anchored and illuminated, you are no longer lost. You may still feel the winds of fortune, but you are not defined by them. You move not because you are pushed, but because you have chosen the way. This is the heart of Stoic teaching, to live not as a victim of events, but as a participant in your own becoming. And that participation begins with clarity of purpose. Without it, philosophy becomes a hobby. With it, philosophy becomes a way of life. For every choice, every reaction, every thought is weighed against the standard of your chosen aim. So take time, serious, deliberate time, to uncover the purpose worthy of your soul. Write it, reflect upon it, engrave it in your memory, and then live it. For a firm purpose is not a possession you acquire. It is a fire you keep alive. It must be tended, protected, and fed with action. And when it burns brightly within you, no storm of fate, no insult, no loss can extinguish it. You will stand as the Stoics taught, steady and serene, unshaken, by what comes unbroken, by what passes, guided always by the purpose you have chosen. Principle 2. Guard your mind, master reactions. There is no battlefield more decisive than the one within your own mind. The world may wound your body, strip away possessions, or surround you with noise, but none of these can conquer you unless they first breach the citadel of your thoughts. For the Stoics, mastery over the mind was not a luxury. It was the very heart of freedom. To fail here is to live as a slave, not to tyrants or enemies, but to every passing impulse and every careless word that reaches your ears. Guarding the mind begins with understanding its vulnerability. Thoughts are like streams, clear when protected, polluted when neglected. Every insult, every flash of envy, every whisper of fear is a stone cast into that stream. If you do not remain watchful, the water clouds until you can no longer see clearly. And so the first act of wisdom is vigilance. You must become the gatekeeper, discerning what enters and what is cast aside. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what others say or do, but we can control our judgments. This distinction is liberation. For when you recognize that offense is not in the insult itself, but in your decision to interpret it as harm, you suddenly reclaim your power. You are no longer compelled to answer anger with anger or scorn with scorn. You pause, you examine, and you choose. In that pause lies the very space where philosophy breathes. To cultivate this power, you must train daily, just as an athlete trains the body. Each small provocation becomes an opportunity. Will you surrender your peace to it, or will you remain unmoved? At first, you will stumble. Your emotions will run ahead of you, dragging you into quarrels, or leaving you restless in the night. But each time you resist, even briefly, you strengthen the habit of mastery. Slowly, the impulses that once seemed irresistible begin to loosen their hold. Guarding the mind is not suppression. It is not pretending that you feel nothing when wounded or afraid. It is rather a deeper honesty, acknowledging the emotion, but refusing to be commanded by it. The Stoics compared this to a rider and his horse. The passions may surge like a wild animal, but the rational mind holds the reins. You do not kill the horse, you guide it. In the same way, anger and fear can exist without determining your actions. The practice of mindfulness, though expressed differently in ancient times, served this very end. By observing your thoughts as they arise, you create distance between stimulus and response. Instead of becoming your anger, you witness it. Instead of drowning in fear, you name it. And the moment you create that distance, you remind yourself, I am more than this thought. I am the one who decides what to do with it. Yet guarding your mind requires more than personal discipline. It requires discernment about the world you invite in. Just as you would not allow filth to accumulate in your home, you must not allow toxic voices to occupy your inner space. Empty chatter, envious comparisons, endless complaints, these corrode the spirit when consumed daily. The Stoic practice therefore includes choosing carefully what you read, whom you spend time with, and what you allow to shape your inner life. What enters often becomes what grows, and still this guarding is not about retreating from life. It is about engaging more wisely. When you no longer react blindly, you are free to act rightly. You can respond to offense with patience, to insult with silence, to hardship with resolve. You are no longer a puppet pulled by strings of passion, but a deliberate actor choosing your role. This is not cold detachment, but true strength, the strength that arises from knowing that nothing outside yourself can dictate your inner peace. Imagine how unassailable the soul becomes when trained in this way. The clamor of the crowd fades into mere background noise. Criticism loses its sting. Praise loses its intoxication. Neither flattery nor insult can move you beyond what reason and virtue command. Such a mind is like a walled city open to those who come in peace, closed to invaders, unshaken by storms beyond its walls. The task, however, is never complete. Guarding the mind is not something achieved once and forgotten. It is a lifelong watch, a discipline renewed each morning. For every day brings new trials, and every trial asks the same question: will you give away your peace, or will you hold it fast? The Stoics would remind you nothing is truly yours except the judgment you pass within your own mind. Possessions can be stolen, health can falter, relationships can change, but your inner citadel remains yours to keep or to surrender. Guard it well, and you walk through life unchained. Neglect it, and you become captive to every passing shadow. So let this be your second lesson, master. Your reactions guard your mind as the most sacred ground. For once your inner world is fortified, no outer force, no insult, no chaos, no loss can overthrow you. You remain free, not because the world bends to your will, but because you no longer hand it the keys to your peace. Principle 3. Handle criticism wisely. Few things cut as sharply as another person's judgment. Words, though weightless, can pierce deeper than steel. A careless remark can rattle your composure, a harsh critique can linger for days, and silent disapproval can gnaw at you more than open hostility ever could. Yet the Stoics remind us it is not the words themselves that wound, but the meaning we allow them to carry into our souls. Criticism is inevitable in life, but whether it enslaves or strengthens you is entirely your choice. The beginning of wisdom here is self-knowledge. When you act without reflection, criticism feels like a verdict on your entire being. But when you know the reasons behind your choices, when you can say to yourself, I have acted in accordance with what I believe is just and right, the sting of judgment fades. The opinions of others lose their authority, for their words cannot overturn the verdict you have already passed within. This is why the Stoics insisted on daily reflection. It is not vanity, but armor. Clarity of conscience is the shield that blunts the sharpest arrows of reproach. Yet wisdom does not reject criticism wholesale. To despise all feedback is not strength, but pride. Even insults wrapped in malice may conceal a fragment of truth. The disciplined soul pauses, examines, and asks, is there something here I can learn? If yes, the lesson is received even if bitter because it serves growth. If not, the words are cast aside as one might set down a stone found on the road. To sift truth from noise is to turn every encounter into fuel for your character. Patience and gentleness are the companions of this practice. To answer insult with insult only proves your chains remain intact. To respond with silence or with measured calm reveals freedom. The Stoics admired those who could endure scorn without surrendering to anger, who could bear the hostility of others without allowing their own soul to be poisoned. Such restraint is not weakness, it is mastery. To let others disturb your composure is to hand them dominion over your mind. To remain steady is to keep your throne. This does not mean withdrawing into cold indifference. When criticism comes from those you love or respect, the wise response is not to harden, but to inquire. Ask gently, "What did you mean? What do you see that I do not?" In this way, rebuke becomes dialogue and dialogue becomes growth. Often misunderstandings dissolve in the light of honest conversation. Where pride would have widened the rift, humility repairs it. Still, not all criticism is born of truth. Much of it arises from wounds unseen in the critic. A harsh tongue often betrays an unsettled heart. Envy, insecurity, resentment. These drive many to attack others, hoping to relieve their own pain by inflicting it outward. Recognizing this allows you to depersonalize their words. You see them not as judgments on your worth, but as reflections of their struggle. And when viewed in this way, compassion can replace anger. You are free to walk away unburdened, carrying no bitterness within. Consider the example of those ancient figures who bore insult with serenity. They did not trade blow for blow. They knew that dignity preserved is a greater victory than retaliation delivered. To hold your peace in the face of contempt is to demonstrate strength rarer than any physical power. For anyone can shout in anger, but few can remain composed under fire. Criticism, then, is a mirror. Sometimes it shows you your own flaws, urging correction. Sometimes it reveals only the cracks in the one who holds it up. In both cases, you retain the power to choose your response. You need not internalize every word spoken about you. You may accept the useful, discard the harmful, and move forward unchanged in your core. This is the Stoic way to be neither puffed up by praise nor crushed by blame. To walk steadily on your path, guided not by the shifting winds of opinion, but by the unchanging compass of reason and virtue. In such a state, the noise of approval and the sting of criticism alike lose their tyranny over you. You act not to please nor to defend, but to remain true to yourself. So let criticism come. Let it test you, shape you, or pass through you harmlessly. For once you master your response, you discover the secret the Stoics cherished. No one has the power to define you but yourself. Principle 4. Transform offense. Every human being sooner or later encounters offense. A word spoken in arrogance, an action dripping with disregard, a betrayal that leaves the heart raw. Such experiences are woven into the fabric of life. To be human is to be exposed to insult. Yet the Stoics observed something crucial. It is not the offense itself that binds us in pain, but the meaning we attach to it. Offense is not a stone hurled from the outside. It is a fire we choose to ignite within. Epictetus taught men are disturbed not by things but by the views which they take of them. To hear this truth is liberating. It reminds you that no word, no gesture, no deed can pierce your soul unless you permit it. The offense is real only when you decide it is real. This does not mean pretending that hurt never touches you. Rather, it means acknowledging the sensation without surrendering your judgment to it. You can feel the sting and yet remain unmoved in your core. How does one achieve this? The Stoic path offers several layers of transformation. First comes recognition pause before the rush of anger carries you away. Observe what has happened. Name the offense without embellishment. Strip it of exaggeration. A man spoke harshly. A friend failed to keep a promise. Nothing more. The mind left unchecked would weave tales of disrespect, betrayal, or injustice. But you, the rational being, can halt this weaving. By keeping the event simple, you keep yourself free. The second layer is reframing. Instead of asking, "Why me?" you ask, "What can this teach me?" The insult becomes an exercise in patience. The betrayal becomes a chance to examine trust. The disregard becomes an opportunity to practice self-respect independent of others. Every offense can, if viewed correctly, be reshaped into a lesson. The world offers you training weights disguised as wounds. Accept them as such, and you grow stronger with each encounter. The third layer is empathy. To be offended is to forget that others act from their own hidden battles. The harsh speaker may be burdened by sorrow. The betrayer may be blinded by fear. The arrogant may simply be lost in their own illusions. To consider this does not excuse wrongdoing, but it shifts your perspective from judgment to understanding. When you see the humanity in your offender, anger softens into compassion, and compassion liberates you from the chains of bitterness. Yet the deepest transformation comes with forgiveness. To hold offense is to drink poison and expect another to suffer. The Stoics remind us that resentment harms the one who carries it far more than the one who caused it. Forgiveness, then, is not a gift you give the other, it is a release you grant yourself. By letting go, you clear the space within your mind for peace to return. You do not condone the act. You simply refuse to let it define your inner state. This practice is not easy. Offense clings to the heart with surprising strength. But remember, each time you resist the urge to retaliate, you build endurance. Each time you replace bitterness with reflection, you deepen wisdom. Like a muscle that grows under resistance, your soul grows under the pressure of offense. What once shook you becomes bearable, and what once seemed unbearable becomes light. To transform offense, then, is to reclaim sovereignty over your soul. You cease to be a puppet jerked by the strings of insult. You become the master of your reactions, the governor of your own peace. In this mastery lies freedom greater than any external possession. For possessions can be stolen, honors stripped away. But the ability to choose your response to transmute harm into growth remains yours alone. So when offense comes, as it surely will meet it, not with surrender but with sovereignty. See it clearly, reframe it wisely, respond with empathy, and release it through forgiveness. In doing so, you take what was meant to wound and turn it into the very stone upon which your character is built. This is the Stoic way to rise from every insult, not weaker, but stronger, until no force outside yourself can shake the peace within. Principle 5. Overcome fear and shame. Fear and shame, these two shadows, have haunted human beings since the earliest days of consciousness. Fear whispers of dangers yet to come. Shame chains us to mistakes already made. One looks forward with trembling, the other backward with regret. Together, they rob the present moment of its freedom. And yet, the Stoics observed that neither fear nor shame exists in the world outside us. They are born in the mind, sustained by the judgments we pass upon ourselves. Fear, at its root, is an anticipation of suffering. It projects disaster where none yet exists. You imagine failure before you act, rejection before you speak, death before it arrives. In this way, fear multiplies pain. It forces you to suffer not once, but many times over, through endless rehearsals of misfortune. The Stoics challenged this illusion. They asked, "What exactly is it you fear? When named, when examined, fear often shrinks. A vague terror hardens into a specific thought, and a specific thought can be reasoned with. Death, it comes to all, and is therefore no evil. Pain, it is either bearable or brief. Failure, it is nothing more than a step along the path to mastery." Thus, fear, once dissected, loses its monstrous form. Shame, meanwhile, is the scar of judgment turned inward. It grows when we measure ourselves by the harsh standards of others or by an impossible image of perfection. It festers when we hide our mistakes instead of learning from them. The Stoics urged us to treat shame not as a sentence, but as a teacher. A past error is not proof of unworthiness, but an opportunity for growth. To dwell in shame is to chain yourself to yesterday. To reflect and correct is to walk forward into tomorrow. But there is another truth: both fear and shame draw their strength from secrecy. Left unspoken, they thrive in the dark. Bring them into the light by reflection, by honest conversation with a trusted friend, by writing them plainly before your own eyes, and their grip loosens. The Stoics themselves practiced this kind of confession, not to wallow in guilt, but to clarify the mind. For what is named clearly can be managed clearly. Freedom from fear and shame does not mean you will never feel them again. They are part of the human condition. But freedom means they no longer rule you. When fear arises, you meet it with examination, stripping it down until nothing remains but truth. When shame whispers, you counter with self-forgiveness and the resolve to improve. In this way, both emotions become tools for refinement rather than weapons of destruction. Consider how your character changes under this discipline. You approach challenges without trembling, knowing that fear will not dictate your choice. You meet past mistakes without despair, seeing them as stepping stones rather than final verdicts. The mind that conquers fear becomes courageous. The mind that dissolves shame becomes compassionate. Together, they create a soul that is unshakable not because it feels nothing, but because it refuses to be enslaved by what it feels. The Stoics believed that the highest strength is not the absence of weakness, but the ability to rise above it. To face fear is an act of courage. To forgive yourself is an act of justice toward your own soul. Both require effort, both demand vigilance, and both yield a freedom beyond price. For once you learn that fear and shame exist only by your consent, you discover a profound truth: no external power can chain you as tightly as your own thoughts, and no liberation is as complete as the mastery of them. So let fear come and you will question it until it vanishes. Let shame rise and you will transform it into wisdom. In this way, every shadow becomes light, every weakness becomes strength. This is the Stoic path: to live unafraid of the future, unburdened by the past, and fully present in the only moment that ever belongs to you, the one before you now. Principle 6. Anticipate obstacles. Premeditatio, malorum. Life seldom unfolds according to our design. We plan for clear skies and are met with storms. We prepare for loyalty and encounter betrayal. We build with care only to see foundations shaken by forces beyond our control. To expect smoothness is to guarantee disappointment. To prepare for hardship is to walk through it with steadiness. This is why the Stoics practiced premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils not as an exercise in pessimism, but as an art of readiness. To anticipate obstacles is to remind yourself of reality's nature. The world is not arranged to satisfy your desires. Fortune is fickle, chance is indifferent, and human beings often act out of weakness rather than virtue. By considering this beforehand, you disarm surprise. When hardship arrives, it does not strike you as an ambush, but as a familiar guest you had already set a place for. In this way, disappointment softens into recognition. Ah, this too I expected. But this practice is not brooding. It is not dwelling on worst-case scenarios until the mind grows heavy. It is a disciplined rehearsal of the soul. You picture the difficulties that may arise: a failed plan, a lost possession, the harsh words of another, and you ask, "How shall I meet this?" You do not sink into dread. You rise into preparation. Fear dissolves when you see that you have already walked the path in thought. The fruit of this exercise is flexibility. The rigid tree is snapped by strong wind. The supple reed bends and endures. When you anticipate obstacles, you train yourself to bend. You do not demand that life obey your will. You prepare to adjust your will to life. And in this adaptability lies strength. You are not broken when events deviate from expectation. You pivot, you adapt, you continue. Reflection deepens this readiness. By looking back upon past trials, you see how often the unimagined became real. You endured then. You will endure again. Memory becomes a teacher, reminding you that survival is already proof of resilience. Each scar is a lesson in the art of anticipation. What hurt you once teaches you to meet it with calmer eyes when it returns. Yet anticipation must be balanced. To fixate endlessly on future evils is to poison the present. The Stoics counseled a middle path: remember that trials will come, but also remember your strengths. Name the resources, virtues, and allies you already possess. Confidence grows not from expecting a painless road, but from trusting your ability to walk even when the road is rough. Through premeditatio, malorum, patience also matures. For when you know obstacles are inevitable, you cease demanding instant success. You begin to value perseverance more than immediate victory. The horizon stretches long. Setbacks are but milestones on the way. Each delay is no longer an outrage, but part of the natural rhythm of progress. The mind that expects hardship ceases to be shocked by it, and this steadiness itself becomes a quiet form of triumph. Mindfulness, too, has its place here. By keeping the mind awake to what is happening now, you notice small difficulties before they grow. You address them with composure rather than panic. You recognize the signs of conflict, the stirrings of temptation, the early cracks in a plan. And because you anticipated that obstacles must come, you meet them without alarm. The storm that surprises others is to you merely weather changing, as it always has. The Stoics taught it is not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters. Anticipation strengthens this truth, for when you have already rehearsed your reaction, the blow of fate lands softer. The mind says, "I knew this was possible. I am ready." In this readiness lies a profound peace, not because life is easier, but because nothing it brings can truly overwhelm you. Thus, anticipate obstacles not to darken your spirit, but to fortify it. Let your imagination walk through adversity so that your soul grows familiar with its contours. When the day of trial arrives, you will not be startled or broken. You will meet it as one who has already stood there before, calm, steady, prepared. For the wise do not pray for a life without storms. They pray only for the strength to sail through them. And that strength is born in part from the discipline of anticipating what must come. In practicing this, you are never caught unready. You carry within you a mind that bends but does not break a heart, that expects hardship, yet chooses steadfastness. This is the art of premeditatio malorum, to see adversity in advance, and to welcome it as a companion on the path to wisdom. Principle 7. Build inner strength. There is a kind of power that no army can bestow, no wealth can purchase, and no reputation can secure. It is the quiet, enduring strength of the inner life. Outer strength belongs to fortune. It rises and falls with health, possessions, and circumstance. Inner strength belongs to reason and discipline. It is cultivated, not granted, and once matured, it cannot be stolen. This, the Stoics declared, is the true foundation of freedom. To build inner strength, one must first know where true power lies. It does not lie in bending the will of others, nor in forcing the world to obey your wishes. The world will remain what it is: unpredictable, often harsh, indifferent to your desires. True power lies in mastery of your own judgments, your own responses, your own will. This is why Epictetus insisted it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. When you shift your attention from what you cannot control to what you can, you reclaim authority over your life. This strength begins with awareness. You observe your emotions as they arise without allowing them to command you. Anger may flare, but you ask, "Does this serve my purpose?" Fear may tremble in your chest, but you pause. Is this fear based in truth or in imagination? Desire may call, but you respond. Will this lead me closer to virtue or farther away? Each act of questioning is an act of resistance, and each resistance is a step in fortifying the soul. Resilience, too, is a pillar of inner strength. The Stoics never promised a life without hardship. They promised instead that hardship could be used as material for growth. Every setback becomes an anvil, every sorrow a whetstone, every failure a teacher. You may not choose the blows that fall upon you, but you can choose to let them forge you. Thus adversity ceases to be an enemy and becomes the very workshop of strength. Gratitude is another hidden source of power. The one who trains the mind to notice what remains good is less shaken by what is lost. Gratitude does not deny pain, it frames it. It reminds you that even in suffering there is something left, to hold some lesson, to learn some beauty, to honor. In this way, gratitude shields the soul from despair. It gives balance, allowing you to stand upright when others collapse under the weight of misfortune. Forgiveness also belongs to this strength. To cling to resentment is to chain yourself to the very harm you wish to escape. The Stoic chooses release, not to excuse wrongdoing, but to deny it the power to linger in the soul. Forgiveness is an act of self-protection. By letting go of the grudge, you preserve your energy for higher things. You refuse to let anger poison the waters of your mind. This is not softness, but sovereignty. Inner strength also embraces vulnerability. The Stoics were not statues without feeling. They were human beings who faced fear, sorrow, and longing. But they did not flee from these experiences. They acknowledged them, studied them, and transformed them into wisdom. To admit weakness is not to surrender it, is to step onto the path of growth. For only by confronting your limitations can you transcend them. Yet inner strength is not cultivated in isolation alone. The Stoics knew the soul is shaped by community. To walk among those who live with virtue is to be lifted by their example. To engage in dialogue with the wise is to sharpen your own reason. To give support and receive it is to weave strength into bonds that endure. Thus, building inner strength is also a social act. It flourishes in fellowship, in shared striving, in the mutual pursuit of virtue. Over time, this discipline matures into serenity. You no longer tremble before chance, for you trust yourself to meet whatever arises. You no longer cling desperately to outcomes, for you know that your peace does not depend on them. You live with calm, not because life has become easy, but because you have become strong. This strength is invisible to the eye, but unmistakable in presence. It is the quiet steadiness of one who has mastered himself. And so the Stoics counsel, do not waste your energy seeking to dominate the world. Build instead the fortress within. For a man who commands his own mind cannot be conquered. He may be struck, but he will not be shaken. He may lose, but he will not despair. His strength is not borrowed from fortune, but born of discipline, reflection, and virtue. This is the strength that endures. To build it is the work of a lifetime. But each moment of patience, each act of resilience, each choice of wisdom over impulse lays another stone in the citadel of your soul. And when it stands firm, you will know the truth the Stoics lived. By no storm can topple the one whose foundation lies within. Principle 8. Restrain actions. The passions arrive suddenly like sparks in dry grass. Anger flares in an instant, desire presses with urgency, impatience gnaws at the edges of your will. Most people allow these sparks to spread unchecked until the fire consumes judgment and dignity alike. But the Stoics taught a different way to pause, to restrain, to act not from impulse but from reason. This restraint is not weakness. It is the highest form of mastery, for it declares that your soul cannot be commanded by passing urges. At the heart of restraint lies the pause between stimulus and response. Something happens, an insult, a temptation, an opportunity for rash indulgence and instinct, demands an immediate reaction. But you, if disciplined, insert a space. In that space you ask, is this action in harmony with my values? Will it lead me toward or away from the person I intend to become? Often the act of pausing alone is enough to dissolve the heat of passion, revealing that the impulse had no true worth. The Stoics never confused restraint with suppression. They did not counsel the denial of emotions, but their governance. Emotions, like wild horses, have strength and energy. Left unbridled, they trample the rider. Guided with reason, they become powerful allies. Restraint is the bridle, not a negation, but a direction. To restrain anger is not to pretend it never existed, but to channel its force into patient endurance. To restrain desire is not to extinguish longing, but to purify it into pursuit of what is truly good. Self-restraint also teaches the art of delaying gratification. The world urges you to seize, to consume, to chase immediate pleasure. Yet what is gained quickly often fades quickly. The Stoics recognized that what endures is built through patience. To wait, to work, to endure discomfort in the service of a higher goal, this is to place reason above appetite. And in doing so, you strengthen the soul against the tyranny of craving. Consider speech. Words once spoken cannot be recalled. A hasty tongue has ruined friendships, ignited wars, and chained men in regret. Restraint here is wisdom. Before speaking, the Stoic weighs, is this true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If not, silence serves better. To restrain speech is not to withhold truth, but to deliver it with precision, stripped of malice and excess. In this way, restraint becomes an act of justice toward others and toward oneself. Restraint also applies to judgment. The mind is eager to label events good or bad, fortunate or disastrous, before time has revealed their true nature. How often do we suffer twice, once from the event itself, and once from our hasty verdict of it? The Stoic trains to suspend quick judgment, to withhold rash conclusions. By waiting, by allowing perspective to emerge, he spares himself needless turmoil. What seemed a curse may later prove a blessing. What seemed a loss may hide a lesson. Restraint in judgment preserves the mind's balance. Discipline in action further strengthens this virtue. To restrain is not only to refrain, but also to choose deliberately. Each act becomes intentional, aligned with reason rather than whim. The Stoic asks, is this action worthy of my purpose? Does it reflect the person I claim to be? If the answer is no, he holds back even if the world urges him forward. This self-command is rare, but it is the essence of freedom. For what greater slavery is there than to be ruled by impulses one cannot resist? Restraint does not make life smaller, it makes it clearer. By cutting away the unnecessary, it preserves energy for what truly matters. The unrestrained scatter themselves across 1,000 impulses, never finishing, never fulfilled. The restrained focus their will, and in focusing, they find strength. Their lives are not wasted on quarrels, indulgences, or vain pursuits, but directed toward virtue. And yet, like all Stoic disciplines, restraint is never complete. It must be renewed daily, moment by moment. Each pause, each silence, each act of patience adds another layer of armor to the soul. Failures will come, you will speak rashly, act impulsively, give in to weakness. But even these can serve if afterward you reflect and learn. For restraint too is forged in the fire of practice. The reward of this discipline is profound. A restrained soul is not tossed about by every impulse. It does not rush blindly into regret. It moves deliberately, acts with clarity, and remains free. In this freedom lies true power, not the power to control the world, but the power to command oneself. And the one who commands himself, the Stoics remind us, is already greater than the one who rules nations, but cannot rule his own passions. So let this be the lesson: restrain not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to choose. Hold back when impulse shouts, pause when anger burns, wait when desire pulls. For in restraint lies sovereignty, and in sovereignty lies peace. Principle 9. Practice acceptance. There is a deep suffering born not from events themselves, but from our refusal to let them be as they are. We fight against what has already happened, resist what cannot be changed, demand that life unfold according to our private script. Yet the Stoics saw clearly this struggle against reality is futile, for reality is indifferent to our protest. The river flows whether or not we curse its current. Acceptance, then, is not surrender, but wisdom, the recognition that peace lies not in reshaping the world, but in reshaping our attitude toward it. When misfortune strikes, the untrained mind recoils, why me, why now? But philosophy asks another question: what is within my control and what is not? The loss of health, wealth, or reputation may be beyond your power to prevent, but your response to such losses always remains in your hands. Acceptance is not passive resignation. It is the active redirection of energy. Instead of exhausting yourself on what cannot be altered, you focus on what can: your judgments, your choices, your actions. This discipline brings clarity. Imagine being dismissed from your position. The common impulse is despair, outrage, or bitterness. But acceptance reframes the moment. What is done is done. No anger can reverse it. Energy spent in resentment is wasted. Energy spent in constructive action, seeking new paths, honing new skills, embodying resilience, is fruitful. By accepting what has already occurred, you open the door to what may yet become. Acceptance also loosens the tyranny of perfectionism. Many torment themselves with the illusion that life must be flawless, that work must always succeed. Relationships must never falter, and every step must be without error. But this is a cruel standard, for nothing in nature is without imperfection. The Stoics taught that to live according to nature is to embrace its cycles, growth and decay, calm and storm, triumph and failure. To accept imperfection is to align with reality itself. You do not lower your standards. You simply stop demanding what the world was never meant to give. Gratitude is intertwined with acceptance. When you train the mind to notice what remains even in loss, you resist the pull of despair. Gratitude shifts focus from scarcity to abundance, from what is missing to what is present. This shift does not deny sorrow, but it tempers it. You begin to see that every situation, however painful, contains some fragment of good, an opportunity to grow a lesson, to learn a chance to deepen compassion. Acceptance and gratitude together transform hardship into nourishment for the soul. Relationships, too, are illuminated by this discipline. Much of our suffering with others comes from wishing they were different, less flawed, more understanding, more aligned with our expectations. Acceptance does not mean tolerating harm, but it does mean releasing the illusion that you can mold others into your ideal. Each person walks their own path, shaped by burdens you cannot see. To accept them as they are is to free both them and yourself from endless conflict. You practice patience, empathy, and boundaries, not because people are perfect, but because they are human. The practice of acceptance also demands courage. It is not easy to face loss without bitterness, to bear disappointment without complaint, to acknowledge mortality without fear. Yet the Stoics argued that courage is precisely this: to look reality in the face, however stark, and still affirm it. In saying yes to life as it is, you rise above the futility of resistance and find a higher kind of strength, the strength to act well in any circumstance. This discipline does not come all at once. Acceptance must be practiced like a daily exercise. You remind yourself each morning, some things today will not go as I wish. People will offend, plans will fail, accidents will happen. Yet none of these can touch my will unless I allow them. With such preparation, each disappointment becomes lighter, for you expected it, and expectation blunts the sting of surprise. In the end, acceptance is a gateway to freedom. The world will never bend to your desires, but your heart can bend toward wisdom. By yielding to what must be, you conserve strength for what can be changed. By embracing imperfection, you release yourself from tyranny. By facing loss with gratitude, you remain rich even in scarcity. And by accepting the truth of others, you cultivate peace in your relationships. So let this be your practice: meet reality with open eyes and an open heart. Do not waste life in resistance. Accept what is given, act where you can, and in all things remain aligned with reason and virtue. For in acceptance lies not defeat, but victory, the victory of a soul at peace with the order of things. Principle 10. Live according to nature. Among all the Stoic teachings, none is more central than the call to live in harmony with nature. But this principle is easily misunderstood. To live according to nature does not mean to retreat into forests or abandon the world of human society. It means to recognize the order of the universe, the essence of your own being, and the place you occupy within the whole. It is to live authentically in alignment with reason, virtue, and the rhythm of existence itself. First, it is a call to know yourself. You are not merely appetite and impulse, but a rational being endowed with the power of choice. Your true nature is not to chase every pleasure or recoil from every pain, but to use reason to guide your actions. To betray this capacity is to live beneath yourself as a beast driven by instinct. To honor it is to rise into your rightful dignity as a creature capable of wisdom. Self-knowledge, then, is the beginning of living by nature. You must ask, what is truly mine? What lies within my control? What kind of person do I wish to be? Second, to live by nature is to cultivate the virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These are not external ornaments, but the natural excellences of a rational soul. Wisdom allows you to see clearly and avoid deception. Courage gives you strength to act rightly even in danger. Justice ensures your dealings with others are fair and honorable. Temperance keeps desires in balance, preventing excess from corroding the spirit. These virtues are not optional additions to life. They are the very expression of your nature fulfilled. Third, this principle recognizes your place within the community of humankind. You are not an isolated fragment, but part of a larger whole. Just as the hand finds its meaning in serving the body, so too do you find meaning in serving others. To live according to nature is to live socially with empathy, compassion, and cooperation. It is to see every person as a fellow traveler in the human condition, fallible, vulnerable, yet deserving of dignity. In this recognition, justice and kindness flow naturally. Living according to nature also means embracing simplicity. The world tempts you with distractions and excess, yet nature requires little for contentment. The Stoics urged a return to what is essential nourishment for the body, learning for the mind, and virtue for the soul. Extravagance promises happiness but rarely delivers. Simplicity clears space for what truly matters. By shedding what is unnecessary, you align more closely with your true needs and lessen your dependence on fortune. Another element of this teaching is acceptance of the natural cycles of life. Just as seasons turn from spring to winter, so too human life passes through stages: youth, maturity, decline, and death. To resist this rhythm is to create needless suffering. To embrace it is to walk with dignity. Birth and death are both natural, and neither diminishes the value of the other. Living by nature means saying yes to the flow of time, trusting that each phase carries its own purpose. Gratitude deepens this acceptance. When you see yourself as part of a larger order, you learn to marvel at the simple gifts of existence: the breath in your lungs, the sun that rises without your command, the companionship of others, the chance to act with virtue today. Gratitude keeps you aligned with the whole, reminding you that your life is not a separate possession, but a thread in the vast fabric of being. Finally, to live according to nature is to live mindfully. The present moment is where nature unfolds, and it is the only moment truly given to you. Dwelling endlessly on the past or anxiously projecting into the future pulls you away from life as it is. By returning to the present, by attending to what is before you, with full awareness, you live in harmony with reality rather than in conflict with it. The Stoics believed that when you live according to nature, you cease to be at war with the world. You no longer demand that events bend to your will. Instead, you bend your will to reason, to virtue, to the natural order. This alignment does not remove hardship, but it removes needless suffering. You remain steady because you move with the current of life, not against it. And so this final principle completes the circle. Purpose gives you direction. Guarding the mind protects your peace. Handling criticism wisely frees you from others' opinions. Transforming offense turns wounds into lessons. Overcoming fear and shame liberates the soul. Anticipating obstacles prepares you for resilience. Building inner strength secures your foundation. Restraining actions gives you mastery over impulse. Acceptance reconciles you with reality. And now, living according to nature ties them all together, ensuring that every step you take is in harmony with who you truly are. To live by nature is to live wisely, courageously, justly, and temperately. It is to live in truth. And in such a life, nothing outside yourself can rob you of peace. Closing the steady center of Stoic life. We began with a storm, with the chaos of daily life pressing in on every side, with stress, fear, and uncertainty threatening to drown the spirit. And step by step, through the wisdom of the Stoics, we have uncovered 10 principles, 10 steady pillars that can hold you upright when everything else seems to fall apart. A firm purpose gives you direction, an anchor in the sea of confusion. Guarding your mind secures the fortress where peace resides. Handling criticism wisely shields you from the weight of others' judgments. Transforming offense turns insult into strength. Overcoming fear and shame frees you from the prisons of future and past. Anticipating obstacles prepares you for the inevitable turbulence of life. Building inner strength roots you in resilience that no fortune can strip away. Restraining actions teaches you sovereignty over impulse. Practicing acceptance reconciles you with reality itself. And living according to nature harmonizes your life with reason, virtue, and the greater whole of existence. Taken together, these principles do not promise a life without difficulty. The Stoics never claimed such a thing. What they offered was far greater: the ability to remain steady in difficulty, unbroken in suffering, and free even in chains. They taught that the true battlefield is within, and victory there ensures that no external defeat can destroy you. Think of what it means to carry these principles into your days. You no longer tremble before the opinions of others because your conscience is clear. You no longer waste yourself in resentment because you have learned to forgive and release. You no longer scatter your strength in endless impulses because you have trained the pause that protects. And above all, you no longer live as a stranger to yourself because you have discovered a purpose aligned with your deepest nature. Such a life is not glamorous. It is not free from hardship, but it is luminous in its steadiness, like a flame that does not waver in the wind. And that steadiness itself becomes a gift to others. For when you live calmly, you remind others that calm is possible. When you live justly, you awaken justice in those around you. When you embody patience, courage, and wisdom, you invite the world itself to rise higher. The Stoics believed philosophy was not mere words, but a way of being. It was not to be spoken, but to be lived. And if you live these 10 principles not perfectly but sincerely, you will find that life begins to shift. The storms still rage, but you stand differently. You no longer ask for the world to change. You change how you meet the world. And in that change lies freedom. So as this journey ends, let a deeper journey begin. Take these principles with you. Reflect on them. Practice them. Fail and return again, as the Stoics themselves did, each day renewing their effort. And in time you will find what they found, that true peace is not given by fortune, nor taken by fate. It is cultivated within, where no hand but your own can reach. Stand firm. Stay grounded. Live with reason, with virtue, with courage. And know this: nothing outside yourself has power over your soul unless you grant it. That is the gift of Stoicism. That is the steady center.